Hello, what's up everyone? Phil here, representing Playground Sessions. How's everyone doing? Welcome to another live stream. We are truly live. Well, when I say we, figuratively. Playground is live right now, but it's just me in the room. I'm still feeling a little bit of the sniffles, you could say. Not COVID related, but still, it's never a good idea to be transmitting germs these days, you could say. So Aiden and Andrew are at home and not here with me. So it's just me here live, but I'm excited to be talking about the entertainer today. And specifically, I wanted to check in with some information that I don't really go too deep into in the actual experience, the teaching individual lessons of the entertainer. More conceptual. I wanted to talk more about expression as it relates to this piece. And so that's kind of what I want to center today's lesson around. And I first just want to check in on this chat. You guys are rocking in the chat tonight. Super busy, and I love it. I love the community here. Sarah Pickles in the house. Angel, Jeanette. Hey, Jeanette, first time. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining. I hope you have a warm welcome here. It seems like you already do. Lynn Stewart, what's going on? Special hello to Jeanette. See, look at that. Bravo, everyone. Hey, Michelle. Hey, Elta. Let's see here. Pat Sir, what's going on? Phil Anderson, that's me. Hey. I just like to say hey to you guys. I really want to give you guys a shout out here because of how awesome this community is each week. Thanks for joining in yet again. Just want to see if there's any new members tonight. I see Charles Smith. I see Franklin Gonzalez. Hey, hey. Sandra from Oregon. Oregon? Hey, John Anderson. Hey, Kwame. B flat. Awesome. Robert Simonoff in the house. Good day to you, too. Hey, Mark Fuller. Hey, Lily May. Elta says, Phil, hope you get better soon. Same with Michelle. Thank you very much. Charles says, Phil needs a theme song. How about the Imperial Match? You know, it's funny. I try and do that each week. I kind of make up my own little theme music, and I kind of forgot to do it tonight because I'm pushing all the buttons, too, behind the scenes. So let me give you something. I'm sick, and I'm still here to teach, and I'm excited to teach the lesson. So that's the mood I'm going to try to evoke here. Well. I hope that conveyed how I'm feeling here. Thanks for taking a moment to listen. Maybe that's my theme song for the day. That's a little bit of kind of minor sounding, reaction to me being sick still. That's kind of a bummer. Also playing around with the entertainer. And, thanks for listening. What's going on, everyone? Jeanette, Lynn, Sarah, Franklin, Charles Smith. All right. Hi, Diane. RHRT from Milan. Nice to see you. Philippe from France. Midnight. That kind of had a Midnight in France vibe too, a little bit, if you ask me at least. Right? That's my little Midnight in France ode to Philippe H. Thanks for joining, everyone. Well, let's talk about the entertainer and see if I can do this. Oh, get rid of that logo. So this is the right-hand part. We're all past this by now. If you're keeping track with where we are in our intermediate level entertainer challenge, we could say, then you know that I think by today we've done all of the left hand for the whole song, which is pretty cool, including even the outro. So what I want to do is try and guide you guys towards the chat, and I want to answer any entertainer-related questions. And so I'm going to give you a moment to type those out. And in the meantime, I just wanted to talk about a few different... oops, sorry, let me change my mic here for a second. I wanted to talk about a few different things that we can do as we go through this piece. Little things to watch out for, or little tips to make things easier or to make things sound better, etc. Okay, and along the way, I would love to answer any and all questions or comments related to the entertainer. In the meantime, I am seeing some questions come through. Jeanette says ominous with a little melancholy. That's right. A couple people asking what key did I play the intro in? Yeah, let's see here. And then someone said, John Anderson, why are some chords using two notes and not the whole triad? Okay, so I'll answer those. So I was generally staying around C minor there, and I'll tell you what, so as not to confuse things. Let's go back to that. Yeah, I'll talk about that for a sec. I was in the key of C minor. So you maybe noticed I kept going down to C's down here. And I was playing a lot of E flats as well. Sometimes I was adding some, various color notes. But in general, C minor. And the progression I was doing, I was kind of toggling in between, kind of implying a D flat major chord here, but kind of a sparse voicing. So not playing the full triad, but rather just the third and the root on top over that C minor pedal point in the bass. I just kind of kept the C going. C minor, but if I switch up like this, kind of has that crunchy, melancholy, as you guys put it, dissonance. And then walking down to resolve it to the C minor. And then at some point I think I went like this, and I went to C major. But I don't like to get too major, so I like to show, put a little extra sauce on the major so that it stays interesting, let's say. But yeah, I was in C minor, and I was toggling kind of between like a D flat major sound and a C minor sound, which kind of loosely hints at a Phrygian mode, those who are familiar with that. If we were to play something like this. Okay, Phrygian is that kind of flat 2 sound with a minor. Anyways, I digress. Let's see if we have entertainer-related ones here. Gordon Webster, how you doing, my friend? Talking about takes some seconds after completing a session in the app. Fair point, Gordon. Contact support if things feel slow for you. I'm certain that they'll be able to help you out. Email support@playgroundsessions.com. Elta John says, I saw the E flat. C minor is that E major. No, you're close. It's E flat major if you're talking about relative minor and major. So C minor, E flat major. Yep, good call. Those are relative keys. Charles Smith talking about tempo here. 60 to 80 BPM. Is that ideal for the entertainer? All right, let's talk entertainer. And I'm going to pull up a quick metronome here, and I'm going to pull up 60 BPM, and I'm going to try and play along and see what that feels like. Okay, so in the meantime, let's get oriented here. I'll just play the right hand to start. And let's see if it'll let me. Here we go. So here's 60 beats per minute. That's a pretty comfortable tempo there. Now it depends on where you're at in your, oops, sorry if I bumped my mic again. It depends on where you're at in your process here of learning and getting this piece together, because that might be a challenging tempo for you. But if you're looking for a performance tempo, I might try and strive for something a bit faster than that. Or consider this. You can hear the click of the metronome as twice as fast. Let me show you what I mean. Instead of thinking what I just did, like where it's one click per every quarter note, I believe, if I'm looking at the notation right. It's a little small from where I'm sitting, but otherwise we can go twice as fast, like something like this. And we'll fill this in here for now. Sorry, this is last week's graphic here. So that tempo felt pretty cool for a performance. You know, at the end of the day, your performance tempo is going to be something that feels comfortable to you, but I would strive for something that feels upbeat when we're looking at music like this for a couple reasons. This is like ragtime music, you know. This isn't meant to be like my Midnight in France intro, you know. You know, this is supposed to be dancier and jumpier and bouncier. And often it can be swung as well. But either way, I would say tempo-wise, it's important to keep it upbeat enough so that it retains some of that original intent of this time period, of this kind of music. All right, again, I digress. So let me get back to the chat. All right, so Elton John has a good question here about the pedal. And I will tie this to the theme of the day today as well, because we're talking about expression. Now, expression does not equal pedal. However, we've talked in the past about how one tool at our disposal for getting different colors at the piano, at the instrument, is the pedal, right? And often in certain styles of music, we can use the pedal to get a certain washy and emotional sound, you could argue. But again, this kind of is a nice piggyback off of the last question and answer that we just discussed. Where we talk about the style of music here and how we should really aim for something that's upbeat and bouncy. And when we think about that, I often never want to use the sustain pedal in a setting like that, especially not to add color. And what I mean by that is something like, you know, where you kind of get that washy effect behind the notes. The only time I might ever use it in a song like this is if I was jumping around quite a bit and I wanted to do something like this. just making something up here, but the idea is to play something low, sustain it only just functionally so that you can get to your next chord, then release. You don't have to use the sustain pedal after that. It's not about, combining all of the sounds into a washy effect. It's just about, practicality, about allowing yourself, the time and space you need to get to the next chord without having to make it sound like this. Right? Sometimes you want this. Same thing goes on the way down. Right? If you want to let that linger until you get to there, you got to use the sustain pedal. But let me get to the specific, question here about using the pedal in this piece. I literally, my right foot is tucked behind my bench right now when I play this song. This is the hands together arrangement, by the way. And I've got my left hand tapping, left foot tapping. But otherwise, my right foot is tucked behind me. And there it is. So I don't really see a use for the sustain pedal here. I guess I'll leave it at that. Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to try and find a creative way to mess with it at home on your own, I highly encourage that because it's fun trying to make, new stuff or have some fun with existing music by making it your own. But I would say, again, if we're aiming towards a performance version of the written music and doing what's best for that goal, I would say let's leave the sustain pedal out of the entertainer. Michael Gomez, what's up? Having a hard time getting my iPad to connect to the Yamaha 640. I apologize. I wish that I knew all the models of keyboards off the top of my head. That would be super cool. But we have an awesome support team who really actually knows all of the compatible keyboards with the apps. And most often, the keyboards are compatible even if they don't seem to work. It's just some sort of a thing that the support team can troubleshoot with you and get it solved. So I encourage you to reach out to support at playgroundsessions.com. Charles Smith, I have an injury to the left hand. For now, ragtime and stride are not playable. Maybe this is a stretch, pun intended, but, sometimes if you are handicapped in a certain way temporarily, you can lean in a different area and get some extra practice, so to speak. And so one way that we can do that is if one hand, say, has a cast on it or whatever, you got stung by 100 bees, or whatever. You only have one hand temporarily, then I think it's fun to try and push the other hand's boundaries. And so let's say your right hand was out of commission. You wanted to try and play the melody and some of the chords. That might be fun. You could have fun with that. Same thing goes with the right hand. Maybe you can add some harmony underneath what you're doing here. I'm kind of making it up here, but I would encourage you to spend some time in your practice session coming up with an exercise that you can do for your other hand. If for no other reason than to not write off practicing altogether just because you don't have both hands at full capacity. However, I'm sorry to hear that you, where was that? Was that Charles? Charles, I'm sorry to hear that you have an injury. My condolences. I hope you get well soon. Elta, yeah, so if you jump too many octaves, it can sound choppy with no pedal. Exactly right. Thank you for highlighting that point. If I wanted to do something like this. Granted, I might use my right hand for some of that, but let's say my right hand's doing something too. don't know, something like that, then you may want to do something like this instead. I think you get the idea. I just like to improvise, guys. All right, so Franklin, I'm just trying to catch up here. New version of the app. Man, I wish I could give you guys a true date, but I promise it's coming. I know we keep saying that, but stick with us, guys. The app is amazing. I've been testing it. We're almost ready to get a group of beta users to help us test it out as well. So we are very close to getting something out to test. Michelle, I've been enjoying the 142 variables. I get caught up in the 135s. Oh, let's see. I got to catch up on that. So Diane says, I play C chord with 135. I think you're using 124. Okay, great point. I'm really glad you called this out. When I first looked at the arrangement for this, I had the same thought. I said, hey, wait a minute. I would usually play this chord with 531. And I assume this is what you guys are talking about here. Sage, YouTube, what up? I'm glad. This is epic. I'm glad. This is epic for me, too. Sage, YouTube, you never seen a POV overhead piano in a live stream? Well, I'm glad you're joining. Well, welcome to Playground. So, let me keep this point going, and then I'll get to the other questions I'm seeing here in the chat. The whole point of fingering this in this way, typically this would be comfortable, right? 5-3-1. But the reason we like to do 4-2-1 is all about context here. And I know I'm looking at the right hand notation above me here. I'm sorry I don't have the left hand. But if you guys have your apps in front of you, open up to lesson 8, today's lesson, and we can look through the left hand part together. But the reason is because when we put it into context with the chord progression, once we shift down to this G over D chord, we want that to be a more comfortable shift, especially because we're moving right back up to the C over E. So think about that for a second, and let's isolate just that little bit of the left-hand part. And that's C over E, G over D, and C over E. One more time for those who have your hands at your keyboards at home. Now that is comfortable. That's the most comfortable way. And I would argue that if you did that with 5-3-1, which is comfortable for C over E, as soon as you go to switch to this chord, you have more changing to do, especially in the middle of the chord, right? Between your third finger and your second finger. So that's why we like to do this. Then it's just the outer voices moving, and it's really just your thumb that's stretching. Now, the result of choosing this way for C over E is that when we then go from C over E to F, you could argue that that's not quite as comfortable, right, as 5-3-1 to F like that. And so I guess use your judgment here. When you're switching between C over E and F, you know, like something like, if you want to do that portion of the left hand like that, 5-3-1, and then 4-2-1, and then 5-3-1, you can, but then I would encourage you maybe to try something like this. When you play the C over E chord again, then switch, because that would set you up then to do this. So again, I would start maybe with 5-3-1 if that's more comfortable to you. Now left hand 4-2-1, back to 5-3-1. But check this out now. Same chord in the left hand, but I'm going to change the fingers to 4-2-1. Now I'm comfortably able to switch here to G over D with 5-2-1. That's one way to do it too. But that's the thinking behind the 4-2-1 on the C over E. It's that we wanted it to be comfortable switching between these two voicings here. Hope that helps. Michael Gomez, where can I find a step-by-step instructions to connect the iPad or a laptop? Without the connection, the app is of no use. I agree, Michael. I hope you can get connected right away. Please send a message to support@playgroundsessions.com. And if you can't get a message right away, I would even encourage you to go to the website FAQ. You may be able to find your answer there, but support typically gets back to you really, really quickly. Michelle Harrington. Okay, cool. Yeah, so you like the reasoning. I like that. You don't have to look down at the keys so much. So that's actually a good way to put it. That's mostly the point of finger suggestions are to make your hand as comfortable as it can be, not just for a specific note or chord, but for a whole phrase, the whole context of multiple chords or notes. And so sometimes that might look weird in one given note or chord, but when you see it in the overall context, ideally, if it's a good fingering suggestion, it should always be about making your hand obviously more comfortable, but also so that you don't have to look down at your hand as much. And another way to put that would be so that you can be in the most, efficient position of the range of notes that you're going to play, so that overall you're moving as little as possible and you're as comfortable as can be. Excellent stuff, guys. Lily May. Hi, Robert Simonoff. Let me get to this here. I tend to disagree, Phil. I like 5-3-1 and the middle finger and rotating my wrist for the G chord. So, Robert, fair enough. Let's talk about that. I actually don't mind that either. Robert, I think, is saying 5-3-1 for C over E. Excuse me. Yeah, C over E. And then 4-2-1 for F, kind of like we've been talking about. But then instead of switching here to 4-2-1, I think Robert's saying keep it here on 5-3-1 and then just shift 5 and 3 down, so that you're actually playing G over D with 5-3-1 as well, and then just shift your outer notes back up. Robert, is that what you're saying? I believe it is. I think that's not wrong. Again, that sometimes there is, more than one, more than two, more than three, possible ways to do this. The one thing I don't like about that is that I rarely play a shape like this, where you have an interval of a fourth and then a third. I rarely stretch my pinky and middle finger a fourth. I mean, I would if I was going to then have my thumb a lot further up, maybe in like a octave or a ninth or a 10th kind of a position. I might do something like this with my third finger. But otherwise, I don't really stretch that. I don't like to stretch that much. It's easier to stretch this half of your hand because of the way our thumb is to our other fingers than it is to stretch, in this half of the hand. So that's my only point on that. But hey, again, there's multiple ways this could work here. And I think if you like doing this, 5-3-1, 5-3-1, 5-3-1, there is some validity to that. Especially the fact that you really don't have to look down. That's probably the best choice for not having to look down. But there's other factors too, including comfort of your hand and things like that. This is a good discussion on finger suggestions. Let's keep it going. Kevin Healy said he was able to find the manual. Okay, good. I'm happy you're making progress. Jose Almonte from Fort Hood, Texas. What's going on? Smash that like button. I like that. Appreciate it. I'll go ahead and ride that. Smash the like button and the subscribe button for all you new people that are here. We're going live every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern, and sometimes additional stuff as well, like live concerts and stuff like that. So, let's keep moving here. Sage YouTube, does imperfect fingering make playing at more advanced levels impossible or just harder than it needs to be? Well, in general, I would probably just say harder than it needs to be. I'll be honest. It's not going to, prevent you from ever being able to play a difficult piece, but it likely will be harder for you to learn it and play it. It likely will take longer to learn, and it likely will not feel very good when you're practicing it and performing it. And so those are some real considerations. If you're practicing something with really bad fingering, then it's possible that it would totally prevent you from doing it. But yeah, in general, the point of using the quote-unquote correct finger suggestions is to make it so your hand has the minimal amount of motion and effort and energy wasted, and tension, of course. We don't want that either. And so obviously when you get into more advanced music, there is going to be more demanding stuff to play in your hands, and there might be more than one way where you could do it, and often there's probably no way that is 0% tense, 100% relaxed, right? Often you're going to have a couple of options for fingering, and all of them might have something that's a little uncomfortable, but overall it's pretty good, right? And so that's kind of the way to think about it. But no, I would encourage you to just keep that one rule in mind and make sure your hand is, let's say there's a fingering way that you like. If it's bending and contorting your hand in a weird way and it's causing pain, I would suggest you try and find a more relaxed and effortless way to do it. And in general, the finger numbers that you see, either in playground sessions notation or in books or whatnot, they're going to have already thought that through for you. So most of the time I say just trust that stuff and try and get through to the other side. Just checking in on the chat here. Excuse me. Man, I hope I get my throat back to normal soon. Old Man Williams, what's up, my friend? Anyone suggest some finger exercises? I'm always a bit lost. One thing I love, Old Man Williams, one thing I love, even though it sounds kind of old and traditional, and it is, but it's classic nonetheless, is the Hannon exercises. These are great fingering exercises. There's all sorts of different patterns. They go up and down through the scale, and they specifically work different patterns to build dexterity and independence in your fingers. That stuff's been around for hundreds of years, and Playground Sessions has the Hannon exercises in interactive notation as well. So I highly encourage you, if you don't have the app, to download the app, start a membership, and check out the Hannon course, as well as a bunch of other stuff in the app. I also like just doing one-off little finger, you can call them tongue twisters, in a 5-finger position. If the Hannon stuff is too difficult, or you want something that's more entry level, pick a position, and I would say C position's a fine one. And you put each finger on a note, and from there you can mix up the difficulty of the order of the notes, right? You can go all the way up and all the way back down. That's a fine exercise for your finger strength and dexterity, especially if you want to go faster. Okay, and then from there, I would try and mix up the order, so maybe skip some notes. Or something even harder, something like... Whew, I got to practice that one. But those can be all great little warm-ups and riffs that you can do. It also can keep your practice sessions a bit more, let's say, interesting, or it can keep it moving faster. If you tend to get bored and you're practicing, if you're doing 100 scales, that's one kind of a thing that you can do that probably will keep your mind more interested, and it will then allow your fingers to just get more practice, which is the key here. That's right. Michelle says you got to learn to make them fun. That's kind of my point there, right? You just got to have some fun with it. Sage YouTube, I'm so happy to hear that you just subscribed. Tell your friends, tell your piano friends and your musician friends, because we do this every week. I answer your guys' questions. I love seeing new people join the community and get inspired by what we're doing. So welcome to the club. Everybody give them a round. Playground Sessions, we're happy to have you. And if you don't have the interactive app yet, you got to check that out too. It's pretty cool. But let's see here. Kevin Healy's also saying that he was not aware of the sessions, the live sessions. Cool. Well, this is fun. Tell your friends, guys. We can always use the word of mouth helps a lot, especially from people who are passionate about it. So that's the community we're trying to build here. A passionate group of people who want to get better at the piano and find joy in music. So I'm trying to do what I can here on Wednesday evenings here in Ohio, in the States, and I appreciate you guys tuning in. We really love seeing the community in action here. So Elton John has a question here in the chat. Phil, will you play if you get too tired of talking? How about a wink and a smile? I'm enjoying your arrangement of it. That's funny. Yeah, last week, Elton, that was nice. I was able to take a little break from talking. Maybe I will. I'll play a little bit. Sage is asking if this session is for anything other than finger positions. So yeah, good point, Sage. I want to actually get to at least one of the things that I wanted to talk about here, and it has to do with the volume between the hands, all right? We can talk about right hand too and left hand on their own, but there's a couple of things that stuck out to me as I was working through the Entertainer, and I wanted to basically go over some of those tips here now. So one of those is to think about where your thumbs are landing. Okay, now let me explain. Now, some of you may have heard me talk about this before in these chats, in these live sessions, and that is that our thumbs tend to be heavy, and our pinky and ring fingers tend to be light if we're not thinking about it. And so what we want to avoid is kind of telegraphing where our thumb is on the piano by smacking down the note with our thumb. Right? We don't want to do that. Instead, we want to generally think about lightening that up. And one way to do that is to balance the thumb notes, the other notes, excuse me, to balance the thumb notes with the other notes, and to push a little bit more on the dynamic of the other notes. So you can quiet down your thumb, and you can lean in to that second finger, and then quiet down your thumb, and lean in to your pinky a bit more. I think that sounds a bit more natural, and it sounds a bit more lively that way. Now here again, I'm going to quiet down with my thumb, and then balance it with a bit louder third finger on D. I'll put it all together here. Oh, one more time here. I'm going to lean into it a bit more. Lightly. Louder, light, louder. It's subtle. It's subtle. I'm trying to exaggerate it here for you. But this is really something that is difficult to practice and takes some time. And so I want to bring this to you guys. When you're practicing this stuff, I hope you're using the app, obviously, and part of using the app is playing along with the interactive scroll bar and the metronome, and it scores you and all that. But one thing that I really also hope that you guys are thinking about is sometimes pushing pause in the app and listening to the touch of just what's coming out of your instrument and thinking about things like expression and emotion and dynamics. And this is a great way to do it. Just think about the touch of each individual finger. Think about phrasing a group of notes. Where do you want the loudest spot to be? Do you want to start and end quieter? What are some of the considerations? Okay? So that's one thing I wanted to talk about. And the second thing I want to talk about here is that when we add the left hand in, and we're about to kick into that, I believe, in the upcoming lessons, I believe starting tomorrow, but don't quote me on that. But when we get the hands together here, that's going to be crucial that we think about not overpowering the right hand melody with the left hand part. That might sound obvious, but it's kind of difficult to do. I'll walk you through it here. For the right hand, we have its own considerations. We just went over them. There's some louder and softer considerations just within the right hand. But on top of that, we then have to take the left hand and lower its volume quite a bit, while the right hand is still playing a bit more expressively as well. So the challenge here is going to be to pretend like you have some balloons or something tied to your left hand. I want you to literally think that your left hand is light. And every time that you go to push a chord, I want you to push it try and back it off about halfway, all right? And when we put the hands together, if we don't do that and everything's the same volume, here's what we get. Okay, I played all the right notes and rhythms, right? But something about it felt really clunky, and my left hand I don't think it was playing much louder than the right hand. I think they were playing the same volume. But think about this. Your left hand's playing 3 notes at once. So it's automatically going to be louder and fuller than what the right hand is doing. The goal here is to cut that down by 50%, maybe even more. And that might seem drastic, but it's what I want you to think about when you're playing. That's the key, because it's not actually going to translate as drastically as you think. You want to think about quieting it way down so that it comes through relatively quiet. So here I'll try it again with the right hand at the same volume I just did, but the left hand I'm going to quiet down about halfway. Ready? Now, because the right hand is still full volume and the left hand isn't quiet, it's just quieter, it still feels like I'm playing a full piece, right? But the difference is that the melody now sings a bit more on top of the left hand harmony. There's a bit more of a cleared way for the melody to come through. The left hand is not stepping on the melody's toes, and so it's more pleasant on the ears. Those are the two things I want to really hammer home today, to answer questions about and to discuss with you guys. Getting the right hand thumb to lighten up and phrasing your melody notes in general with volume. And then for the left hand, cut that volume down way more than you think so you don't overpower and bury the right hand. All right, let me check back in with the chat again with you guys. Man, you guys are pumping it out today. This is awesome. It's tough for me to catch up. Sage, going lightly for the dynamic value of the listener, so you're not so tense. You know, it helps, I guess. The tension always helps, but no, I don't really think about that move so that you're less tense in the left hand. I think about it purely from a listening perspective. What does it sound like when you play it quieter? And I think personally, and I think many people would agree, that when the melody can soar on top of the rest of the parts and the harmony is there to support underneath, that's when we get the best mix of parts. So that's what we're striving for here. Kevin Healy, are the entertainer lessons going to be available at after the end of the month? I'm not sure I'll make it to the end of the lessons. Great point. So Kevin, we like to put these song packages out kind of in daily doses, if you will. And we hope that you guys like that and follow along with them as they come out. But by no means is there pressure to be done on the final day. And so the way we think about it is, you know, when we kick it off, we're with you daily and we teach you every chunk along the way. When we've taught you the last new thing and we've helped you put it all together, we're not going to release any new lessons on that, but it will still be available to you, and you're definitely encouraged to continue on. In fact, I think a lot of people who have done our last few challenges that were rolled out in this way, they were halfway or 2/3 of the way done when we finished rolling out the lessons, and they just continued on afterwards. I still saw a lot of activity in the Facebook community, people posting about that, about the Bach challenge and about the holiday one, and I maybe expect to see that as well here on the New Year's one, and that's okay. So short answer is yes, it'll still be available, and great question. All right, you guys keep talking about playing. I'm going to play a little bit here as well, and I guess I'm gonna improvise a little bit of something here for you that has this notion in mind of a quieter left hand. I don't mean to say a sparse or a bare left hand. I'm going to be playing notes and chords, but I'm going to try and make sure it's always tucked underneath what I'm doing in the right hand, okay? And let's see what happens here. I'm going to rest my voice for a few minutes. Thanks for listening, guys. And let me go ahead and throw that up there. left hand's always busier than my right, but I'm trying to make my left hand always quieter than my right. And as I do something like that, where my hands now start to serve a joint function of together doing one scale, then it's kind of important to do hands at the same volume, right? You don't want this. You want something more like this. You want to be able to close your eyes as a listener and not know which hand is being used to play it. Thanks again for letting me play for you guys. And I'm getting some questions here. What song is this? That was just me jamming, guys. Hey, Rhoda. Rhoda says, what time is your live session? We go 6 to 7 Wednesdays Eastern. Jennifer says, hey, Jennifer, that's Jennifer from Cleveland, right? What's up? We going to play the whole song? Yes, indeed. I believe we just finished the left hand. The next several lessons are all about putting the hands together. So enjoy that, and that's going to go through the whole piece. And actually, I should say, let me clarify. When we say whole piece, I do actually need to say, I understand what you're saying. If you're familiar with the full piece of the actual composition, The Entertainer, there's an intro, there's a whole other section after all this. We're not going to be covering that in this specific arrangement, this challenge. That would take months and months and months and months to teach and learn. And that's just from all our experience last year doing these and rolling these out. That's just a ton to bite off. So instead, what we've done is we've arranged a little version of this that can stand alone, but it's much shorter. So you've learned the right hand and the left hand for this particular arrangement already. So that's all we're doing there, and then now you'll spend your time putting the hands together. Rhoda, thank you, from the Philippines. Awesome, thank you for tuning in from the Philippines. That's so cool. Steffykins. Hey, Steffykins, Sandoval. I'm glad you're having fun. I think you should check out the app for sure. The app is all about the interactivity, and it grades you as you play. And then in these social media channels, we like to have fun as a community and support each other as we're learning new stuff on the piano. So I'm glad to have you here, and I hope you'll come back every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. You guys, I think we're going to leave it there for the day. I am really hoping that by next week I'll be back in full capacity, in full form. I'll leave you with I'll play kind of the Playground Sessions theme song here as my outro for those who turn on the app, which is about to get updated. For those who have been with us for a while, know the app theme song when it starts. I'm going to riff on that for a second. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.